We're recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this AEM Center webinar. We're so glad that you're joining us this afternoon. We've looked at the participants list and can see that there's quite a representation today from around the country and even from other countries. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar focusing on captioning. And the title is 123 Captioning, or Captions, Workflows for Creating Accessible Video. And of course, as I say that, my pointer stops working. So we do have captions. That's really appropriate, right? The webinar is about captioning, so we definitely need to have captions be provided. And the captioning is available through your Zoom interface. Just look for the closed caption button in the Zoom window. And I want to give a shout out to Brooke from ACS Captioning. She's providing the captions today. We really appreciate your work, Brooke, in providing those captions. And we invite you to interact with us and with each other throughout the webinar. All of you have a lot of expertise that you bring to the webinar, and we want you to share that with us and with each other. You want to make sure while you're in the chat, so there's usually a chat button that you can tap on or click on depending on what platform you're on. And you want to make sure to choose all panelists and attendees from the drop-down menu. That way you're not sending a message to an individual person, but the message can be seen by everyone who's on the chat. So if you have a great insight, we don't want it to kind of be lost. So make sure you choose all panelists and attendees before you share out your message. And we invite you to continue the conversation on social media. You can tweet out any insights or new information you gain from this webinar. You can make sure that you tag CAST, the AEM Center that's bringing you this webinar is part of CAST. So tag CAST, it's at CAST_UDL. And then we ask that you use the hashtag AEM, the number 4, and then all, ALL. And that will just make it easier for us to see those tweets that you share from this webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available about a week from now once we're able to add the captions. And it will be found in the same page where you registered for the webinar. But just in case, Leslie is going to drop a link in the chat that will take you there. And the link is bit.ly, and then /AEM 123 captions. And that's case sensitive. So this will take you to the page where the recording will be available, the slides from this presentation today, and a handout. We always share a handout because that's sometimes a much easier way to navigate the different resources, and it may be something that you want to print out for reference as well. So we invite you to check back with us. You actually will get an email as well reminding you when the webinar recording is available. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I'm Luis Perez. I'm a technical assistant specialist with the AEM Center at CAST. And the co-presenter for this afternoon is my good friend, Janet Peters. She's also a technical assistant specialist at CAST. So Janet, I will turn it over to you for this first segment. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Great, thanks, Luis. And let's just do a shout out to Luis. He had to battle Mother Nature to be here this afternoon, so we're all glad he's got electricity and lights and is safe. Yes, I'm also a technical assistance specialist with CAST on a project that I mentioned earlier, the Center on Inclusive Technology and Education Systems, which is like a sister project to the AEM Center, and we work together a lot on how assistive technology and educational technology can work together. So the goals of this webinar this is really a how-to webinar, and we hope that you come away with some really practical skills and items to try on how to create your own video. So we will review why we care about video and why it's worth the effort and time to create videos. We will demonstrate 3 workflow options on how you actually do that. And then we're going to talk a lot about AEM resources that are on the AEM Center website. AEM Center has done a really, really nice job of how-to tutorials as well as information on some of the different platforms and videos are resources on why to do that. So I think it will be a really productive session today. The importance of captioning, we have our own ideas on why it's important. For one thing, if you are a person who has difficulty hearing or has a hearing loss or a disability that makes that difficult, captions are the only way for you to really actually access video. And video is becoming so ubiquitous that without captioning, you don't have access to a lot of that information. Next slide, please. So while we know that it's absolutely necessary for individuals who have disabilities, there's a lot of times when captioning is beneficial and helpful to everyone, whether or not you have a disability. So we'd like to take just a minute here in the chat and have you share an experience where captions have been useful or beneficial to you, and where have you found those useful and beneficial to you? So let's just take a second to type in the chat and share some of your experiences with captioning. Handy when your audio may disturb others. And since we're all in lockdown right now, there's some households have less space than others. Multitasking. Watching movies that are hard to understand. It's going by fast, so I'm catching some of them. Use captions on my TV. Understanding British accents in movies. A lot of background noise. Yeah, so we're getting the idea that there's definitely a context where whether or not you have a hearing loss, captions are beneficial. One of my the funny things I like to say about caption is one of the people who use captions the most are those people at the bars. When we used to be able to go to the bars and watch sports events had captioning going on, and so you could sit and enjoy a conversation with your friend and still be seeing what was happening on the TV. Or couples in bed, and one wants to be reading and one wants to be watching their program. Captioning is very, very beneficial. So thank you for sharing. We can see that while it's essential for some people, it's definitely a benefit for everyone, both on personal levels and technical levels, so materials searchable. And so it's really important that we do caption, and today is mostly going to be talking about how to do that. Could you go to the next slide, Louise, please? Oops.
Yeah, my computer has a mind of its own today. There we go.
There we go. So we wanted to take a minute to just talk about, we were talking about videos in general, and that might be all video material, but especially in an educational context, accessible videos really is a very powerful teaching tool. And we are learning, we've always known this, that video can be engaging. It can be a multiple means of representation to show an idea in another way. It can help with all kinds of teaching aspects to help a student really understand and hook into that material. But no more, if we knew that before, certainly in this era of emergency learning and emergency distance learning, video has become one of the main ways we are delivering educational content to students remotely. And so the keys, the key that video is accessible is even more important than we knew it to be important before. So this handout that is highlighted on the slide of teaching with accessible video, Leslie, thank you. She put the link in the chat for us. This is an AEM Center resource, and I think it's a really, really nice overview of why teaching with accessible video is really important, and how to understand the key terminology, what makes high quality video, and how to caption those videos so all of your students, faculty, and in this case, sometimes parents who may need captioning have access to the video content. So that's a really good one for you to go to and bookmark. we're going to talk today about 3 workflows for captioning video. And so our hope is that you walk away from today with the skills to be able to caption your own video. But we wanted to be sure that we talked about the video production process. So if you are in an organization where you're creating professional video or long, hour-long or more than hour-long video that needs to be captioned, you may want to consider a service. The tools we're talking about work really well, but for a large-scale project, they may be less efficient to do, and there's always a time or cost associated with captioning. So if captioning videos is part of part of what's being required of you, we wanted to be sure you knew that there are commercial companies that do this, that you can pay per minute and get a captioning filed for your video. And we like to think of this, if you're producing video, there's all kinds of video production costs that go with that, from lighting and microphones and talent and all those things that go into producing a video. Captioning is just one of those line items that you have to budget for and make time. But we are showing today things that you can do for shorter videos or shorter trainings that you're sharing with your students, so that you can be sure you're producing accessible video in your context. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Luis to get to some demonstrations.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And I just want to, before I move on to the how do you get started, it reminds me, the discussion you were having on the chat reminds me of a meme that I've seen around, that if you have students at home right now and they're watching video and you turn on the captions, boom, they're reading. So captions are another way that you can expose learners to print, and it can be a nice reading support. So again, that's another reason why captions are important. So today we're going to, as Janet said, look at some workflows that you can use to just get started with perhaps those short videos that you want to share, maybe explaining a specific concept, or it may be a video that you send out to parents right now to explain what you're doing during this time of remote learning, and so that you can fill them in on what's happening with the class, or anything, any kind of short video like that that you share publicly. We want to make sure that it has the captions. So we're going to focus on 3 workflows. We're going to look at how to edit the automatically generated YouTube captions. YouTube has come a long way in terms of the quality of the automatic captioning, but it's still necessary to go in and edit those captions for accuracy and timing. We're going to look at another option if you already have a transcript, and we recommend starting with a transcript because it generally leads to a smoother, more concise video if you start with a transcript. Of course, that depends on what kind of video it is, if it's more produced or if it's more spontaneous. But if you already have a transcript, you can upload it to YouTube, and YouTube can use speech recognition to add the timing. So that's another option. And then we're going to look at if you want to do captioning from the beginning, you want to start with the video file and you want to create the captions yourself without the support of speech recognition. There is a free tool called CADET from the National Center on Accessible Media at WGBH. And it's a really nice tool. It's free. It's also very accessible because it relies on keyboard shortcuts. So it allows people who have a variety of different needs. Maybe they need to use the keyboard because using a mouse is difficult for them. So CADET relies on keyboard shortcuts, and it makes it really accessible. So workflow number 1, where I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Janet for the second one. So workflow number 1 is really probably the first place that you can start. It's the easiest in terms of the complexity, which is to edit your YouTube automatic captions. And we want to edit 2 aspects of our automatic captions. We want to edit for content. So we want to make sure that we go in and add punctuation. I joke sometimes that YouTube produces the longest run-on sentence in the world. And so we do want to go in there and we want to add that punctuation that really adds a conversational element to the captions, right? The commas indicate where we would normally pause sometimes when we're speaking. The periods identify a complete thought and so on. We also want to identify when there's a change of speakers. So if we have a video and there are a couple of people having a conversation, we want to let someone who's watching with the audio turned off know when the conversation shifts from one speaker to another. And then there may be additional sounds in the video that are important for our understanding. And so we want to make sure that we note when those additional sounds occur in the video. So that's most of your editing is going to have to do with editing for content. But then sometimes you also have to adjust the timing to make sure that the captions are in sync. Because if you're watching a video and the captions are not in sync, it's just another distraction that really takes away from the ability to understand the content. So adjusting the timing is important. And YouTube does a pretty good job with the timing because it uses artificial intelligence to check out those waveforms, you know, the sort of moving up and down bars that you see underneath the video here on the screenshot. So this is a screenshot from YouTube where you see the video has been opened in the editor, which we're going to look in just a second. And then underneath you can see the audio waveform that shows you when the audio is loud and when it's not so loud. So YouTube can use that to provide some of the timing. So with that, what I'm going to do here is exit out of the presentation and go right to YouTube and show you how to get started with editing the automatic captions. So this is our YouTube channel for the National AEM Center. We invite you to check out the resources that we've uploaded there, and they're all captioned because we're always trying to model accessibility as much as possible. So once you go to YouTube, on the right-hand side towards the top of the screen, there is an icon that indicates your account. So here we have our AEM Center logo just to identify our account. That's part of our branding. And if you select that option, then you're going to see a second option on the drop-down menu called YouTube Studio. So this is where you go to upload and manage your videos. I'll go ahead and select that option. It'll take a second to load up the YouTube Studio. And then over on the left side of the screen, I want to choose videos. And that will show me a list of all of the videos that I have uploaded to this channel. So again, I've selected my account, YouTube Studio, and then videos to see a list of all of my videos on this YouTube account. And then I've uploaded a video that is really appropriate for the time we're living in. It's a video for kids about washing your hands, something that's really important during this time of quarantine and COVID. So once you've uploaded a video, and sometimes it takes a while for YouTube to process it and add the automatic captions. But once you've waited a little bit of time, you can come in here and choose the what looks like a pencil icon or a pen icon and look at the video's details. And then choose more options. So video details, more options, and then towards the middle of the screen, there's going to be an option that says English by YouTube Automatic for closed captions. And what that means is YouTube has gone through and used speech recognition to try to guess at what the captions would be. So this will be a great start for you to create a properly captioned video, but by itself, again, we usually have to go in and edit the content of the captions and the timing. And the way you do that is to the right of that text where it says English by YouTube Automatic. There's these three little dots for more options, and then you'll choose Edit on Classic Studio. Now, if this is a lot of information for you to keep track of, don't worry, because we have a video tutorial on our website that will walk you through these very same steps. We just want to give you a sense of the full workflow, but then the details, that's something that you will find through our video on the website. So in here, once I'm in the editor, I can choose Edit. and then I will go over the interface. So we have our video on the right-hand side. As I said earlier, underneath it, we have our audio track, and it shows us the waveform so we can see when the audio is going up and down. And then each of these blocks here is an individual caption. And we can adjust the timing by moving these handles. So if this caption started too early, I could drag this handle to the right, and then that will change when that caption starts. Now, in this case, it's actually at the right time. If it ends too late or too early, again, I can move the other handle for the caption. So the timing is completely customizable here. And then over on the left side, you can see that we have punctuation is missing, capitalization. So I can come in here and I can edit any of this text. Okay, so I could go in, edit all my punctuation. And then if there's a caption missing, I can also select the plus underneath the current caption, and I can add a new caption. If maybe the sound wasn't loud enough for YouTube to pick it up, that happens sometimes if your audio is kind of too variable. But if you want to do that, you also have to create a little bit of space. So maybe if I want to add a caption here, I'll use the handles to create a little bit of space, and then I can add a new caption at that point, because it can't add a caption if there's one already existing there. So you have to create sort of a little gap for yourself if you want to add a caption. I won't do that here because this is just fine. So it's not very riveting television if I go through and edit all these captions. So we're going to pretend that I've done it. But I've gone through and added punctuation where it's appropriate. I fixed some of the proper names. That's something also that YouTube sometimes doesn't pick up correctly. So I've been all kinds of versions of Luis on YouTube. Luis, all kinds of things. But when you're done, basically you will choose Save Changes. And then that will save the work that you've done. And you'll notice now that it lists two sets of captions here. The automatic ones are preserved, so they're still there. And then there's a new caption track, and that's the one that we've edited with all of our changes. Now for usability, typically what I do, and this is an option that you have, I will typically choose the automatic captions, go in and unpublish them. And you choose unpublish and then delete draft. And the reason that I do that is I don't want people to pick the automatic captions by mistake or have them show up as the default. So now when I go and watch this video, those properly captioned, the proper captions are going to show up by default with all of our punctuation. The proper names are going to be accurately described or captioned and so on. So again, as I said earlier, that's a lot of steps. But if you've used YouTube, you probably already know how to do some of these things. You know how to upload a video, where to find the details for the video. And then the other steps that I've covered, we have that video tutorial on our website where you can watch those steps. And then we really invite you, the best way to learn this is by trying it a few times. So go ahead and create a quick video and upload it to YouTube, and then practice doing the captions yourself. And it's like a muscle. So over time, it just gets easier and easier. You develop that rhythm for doing the captions. All right, so back to our presentation here. So that was YouTube and how to edit the automatic captions. That's a great place to start. But I also want to address, there are other options out there. Microsoft Stream, this is a service from Microsoft. It's sort of an alternative to YouTube. You can upload videos, and when you upload a video, one of the options is to turn on automatic captions. They call it here, auto-generate a caption file. And so just like YouTube, it will use speech recognition. It will try to recognize the audio and turn it into text that can be presented as captions. Here's an example. I've uploaded a public domain clip to Microsoft Stream, and then Once I have that open, I can view the transcript. And then there's an option to edit the transcript. So I can go in and again, edit the text to make sure that it's accurate for those captions. So a lot of places are, they may have YouTube blocked. There may be a place where Microsoft already has a presence. So that may be a time where you want to use Microsoft Stream as an option for uploading and sharing your videos. So either one of these two services, YouTube, Microsoft Stream, again, they can use speech recognition to auto-generate the captions, but we highly recommend going in, reviewing them, and then making sure that you've edited them for accuracy and timing. That's really important so that we end up with a high quality caption file. And with that quick demo, I'm going to turn it over to Janet now to talk about workflow number 2.
Okay. And there was a question in the chat on the quality difference of the auto captioning. And I think both are probably using similar artificial intelligence for voice recognition to generate those auto captioning. So I haven't done a formal comparison study, but I would guess they're probably very similar in quality, which is pretty good, but you will still have to edit.
Yeah. And you definitely need to review them. I've actually found, I've done a little bit of testing, not scientific in any way, but I've noticed that the stream actually does a really good job with the capitalization and the punctuation, but you don't have the option with the timing, at least not yet. So hopefully they'll have an option soon where you can adjust the timing. So there, YouTube provides a little bit more flexibility in terms of adjusting the timing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Luis, that if the auto caption is significantly off, not just in the text, but in the timing, YouTube would be a better choice. But if it does capitalizations, that would be great. That's very useful.
And it also, a lot of it depends on the video as well. So we highly recommend making sure you pay attention to the audio quality. The better the audio quality, the better the recognition is going to work. And then the complexity as well. So if there's a lot going on in a video, for instance, if you have a lot of crosstalk, then even the best AR recognition, right, the speech recognition, is going to have a difficult time with that. So thinking about it from a production standpoint from the beginning, making sure that you're thinking about, this is a computer that's going to be recognizing this, and sort of, not having crosstalk, and then making sure you're using a good microphone will go a long way.
And just a shout out to another resource on the National AEM Center that is on tips on high quality video production that talks about some of the things Luis just highlighted. So the second workflow is another way to get your captions onto your video, and that is to upload a transcript. So the difference between a caption file and a transcript file, a transcript is just the written text of what is said, like a script, without timing. So the closed caption file has different formats and different time codes to align the timestamp to the video with the text. But if you have a transcript available, then you can start with that transcript and just do very minor editing it will automatically do the timestamp from the transcript. So if you go to the, so on this slide, I know people are having, go back one, I'm sorry, Luis, go back one. So this is a screenshot of on YouTube, and you can see that it will say to upload subtitles or your closed captioning file, the video language, and then you upload that file. Now go to the next slide. On that slide, it will ask, or on that button, when you click that, it will ask you whether it is with timing or without timing. So if you have a transcript, a big text file, that's without timing. If you have the closed caption file, that's with timing. So if you pay for someone to make a closed captioning file, or you get the file from someone else, they send you the captioning file that comes with it, you can upload that video with the closed captioning file or with the transcript. Transcripts can be created many different ways. For example, we will have a transcript of this session because we have it live captioned, and so we will have a transcript that can go with that. If you're doing a prepared presentation, you might have a script that you are reading from for that presentation. That generally doesn't work for me because I go off script. So my transcripts tend not to work. But there's a variety of reasons would have a transcript, and that's a really good workflow process to use in editing the video. So that's another way to get to that screen with some text in there that's not auto-generated, that might have the punctuation and be more accurate from the beginning and just needs smaller tweaks.
All right, and then, so we focus on these three workflows from the simplest one. Now we're going into the more complex one, but it really is not that complex. It's just a little bit more. So workflow number 3 is to use CADET to create a caption file. And as Janet just mentioned, once you create that caption file, you could go to YouTube and upload it and choose that with timing, because the caption file will already have the information that YouTube needs to add the proper timing. Or there are other places where you might host your video and they may have a specific format that they want. And so that's where something like CADET comes in. So CADET stands for the Caption and Description Editing Tool. And it's a free captioning tool from the National Center on Accessible Media at WGBH. It's free. It runs as a web app, so you can actually open it once you install it on either the Mac or Windows. So it gives you a cross-platform captioning solution or a transcription solution, because I do that quite a bit as well. I bring in media files that I just want to generate a transcript for, and I'll use it for that. And so like any captioning application, it has a built-in editor where you'll bring in your video file, and then you can transcribe the audio into text, and then you can add the timing. So it's really a 2-step process. And as I said at the beginning of the webinar, it is using keyboard shortcuts that you're going to do that. And so that's really helpful for accessibility, and it has really nice color contrast as well. So they've thought about not only how to use the tool for creating accessible content, but also how to make the tool itself accessible, which is really cool. CADET supports exporting to a number of different caption file formats. So what I would recommend is going to the service that you want to use to host your video files, and generally they'll have a help file, and it will tell you what captioning file formats they support. So for YouTube, you can use SRT. That's the same file format that's used on Google Drive. So if, for instance, your school is blocking YouTube, you might want to use Google Drive as another option for hosting the file. And you can upload an SRT file and it will work there as well. So in fact, in some cases, I will fix my captions on YouTube using Workflow 1, download the captioning file from YouTube, and then I will upload the video to Google Drive because maybe I want to share it with somebody who can't access YouTube, and then I'll just upload the captioning file. And then PowerPoint, some versions of PowerPoint now support adding captions to the video if you want to embed it in a slideshow. And PowerPoint has a specific caption type that it accepts. It's called WebVTT. And so with CADET, you can either export a WebVTT file, or you can take another file like the SRT that YouTube produces, and then just use CADET as a conversion tool. So you have lots of options in there. So here's just a quick overview of the interface. As I mentioned, it's going to open in your web browser, so it can open up as a window or a tab in your web browser. You have a menu bar towards the top with lots of familiar options like File, Edit, and so on. Your video is going to show up on the right-hand side of the screen, and you have playback controls there. And then your work area is going to be on the left side of the screen. And so there you have start and end fields. So that's where and when the caption is going to start and when it's going to end. And then you have the text for the caption. So that's the interface. Now I was a little worried about doing this demo live because it's lots of moving parts. So instead, what I did is I created these 2 short videos that I'm going to play for you, and I'm going to narrate them. And then we're going to take a quick break and answer a couple of questions. We also have plenty of time at the end to take your questions. And then I also want to mention that this is an enhanced webinar, meaning that at 4:30, so we're going to give you a quick break after the webinar is over. At 4:30, if you want to do some guided practice with us, or if you want to ask any questions that are a little bit more specific, we will be available for about an hour starting at 4:30, and we'll share the information with you on how to join the office hours. So in here, let me just play that video real quick, and then I'll narrate over it, the steps for captioning a video in CADET. So it's a 2-step process. As I said, the first step is the transcription. So here's a quick video that I'll narrate. So basically, I am playing the video using a keyboard shortcut, and that is Control Space. So I will tap Control Space on my keyboard, starts the video. I'll play about 4 or 5 seconds of it, and then I'll tap Control Space again, and I'll start typing my caption. I'll then press Enter a couple of times, and then that moves me to the next caption. And this is a process that you'll repeat until you complete the entire captioning process. So again, Control Space for playback, that plays the video so that you can listen to it in small, segments of 4 to 5 seconds. You'll type your caption, and then you'll press Enter twice, and that will move you to the next block so that you can do the next caption. And through the magic, it's not really compelling for you to watch me type. So through the magic of video editing, we skipped a few steps there so that you can see a finished caption file. So I want to point out a couple of things here. You'll notice that I've added some additional sounds that are important. In the video, there is some crowd noise from the audience. This was a public domain clip of Wilt Chamberlain. And so he's in an arena playing basketball, and the crowd is cheering, or there's at one point there's loud applause from the audience. So those are the kinds of things that we would want to add in because they do add to the meaning of the information. They add a lot to the content. So that's the first step, is just do that transcription. And then the next step is to add the timing. And again, we're going to do that with keyboard shortcuts. So here's the second video. And basically what I'm doing is, let's see. I think I have the wrong video here. There we go. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing is just listening to the video the second time. And then each time that I hear the beginning of a sentence, I will press Control, comma. And you will see on the left side here how it's adding that timing, indicating when that caption starts. And I will just continue doing that until I reach the end. And you can see now that it's added all the timing for each of the captions when it starts. You can also add end timing. There's a keyboard shortcut for that as well. So let's say that you wanted to create a pause where there are no captions on the screen. You could use a keyboard shortcut to add end timing for an individual caption. So really flexible tool, again, free, cross-platform, lots of accessibility support built into it. So I highly recommend checking it out. And if nothing else, it gives you a caption converter. So if you need to convert from one format to another, so for instance, if I want to add a video into PowerPoint, I know PowerPoint only accepts a specific captioning file format. So I will use CADET for that, to take my YouTube video, download the captioning file for them, and then convert it here before I use the video in PowerPoint. So let's pause there and see if you have a few questions for us. I couldn't see the chat, so I may need a little help. Janet, maybe you've seen a few questions that have popped up.
Yeah, one question that came in is CADET accessible to if someone uses a screen reader, which I think would be because it's keyboard.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And there is additional information on the National Center on Accessible Media Center. They have lots of really nice documentation for CADET, including a tutorial series that goes over different use cases for CADET. Now, in the name CADET, there's also that description part of it. And so you may be wondering, when would you use that? So audio description is where we would describe a video for somebody who either can't see the video, or maybe they're multitasking, which again is a use case that we mentioned at the beginning with captions as well. Maybe you don't want to look at the screen because you want to be able to do two things at once. So what CADET does in the description is it doesn't create the audio description for you, but you can create a transcript for somebody who would do the description. So you can play a video and find those pauses, right? Because the audio description has to be added in pauses in the dialogue. And so you can sort of create markers for where the narration would go that would describe that video. So that's another use for CADET, is to create a description transcript, if you will, for an audio describer. Any other questions that I didn't see?
I don't think there's another question, but someone asked about SBV, and that's just another file format for captioning. So SRT is very common, Web, VTT, and SBV, and there are others, are just the file format that that is used in different platforms for that captioning file.
And generally, there's been a move. Even YouTube now supports WebVTT. That's kind of the latest standard for captioning on the web. And so a lot of services are moving towards accepting WebVTT as the format. And that's the one that you can also add in the latest versions of PowerPoint that support captioning.
I see a question on the raw cart file and uploading it to CADET as a time-stamped caption file. So the experience is that you cannot, but maybe a workaround. And I am not familiar what format the raw cart file would be in, and I think that would be the question.
That would definitely be the question, because you can import different types of captioning files into CADET to perform what we would call cleanup. So basically, there might be additional characters, there may be additional spacing. So that may be one thing that you can do. But as John says in the chat, the timestamps are different. So that's something we can investigate for you. And by the way, we update the handout for these sessions. So that's something we can add to the handout. Now, the next question that came in, that's an easy one. So Janet, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to?
Prefer closed captions rather than open captions. I think that it depends. There are times that you might want open captioned videos, but for the most part, I would say you lean towards closed captions, so an individual can turn those captions on or off. There may be people with attention deficit disorder or just distraction issues that don't want the captions, and that's, I think, a nice feature. That said, there are times when open caption is preferred depending on your audience. So both options are available. If you are going to create open captions, they don't take a separate file. Like we've been talking about the file format of a closed caption file. Open captions are burned right onto the video, and they're part of the video screen. So once you have open captions, you can't not open them. They're always open. And for people who don't know the difference, closed captions is what we've been talking about with turning a file on and off. So you see the text come and you can turn it off. Open captions are burned onto the screen.
Yeah, and I think if we think about, the AEM Center is based at CAST, and CAST pioneered the Universal Design for Learning principles. And Universal Design for Learning is, at its core about choice and having options and preferences. And with the open captions, whatever text size and text format the person creating the video chose, that's what you're stuck with, because you can't turn those captions on and off or customize them. In most video players, when you turn on the closed captions, you can actually go in and adjust the text size. You can choose different fonts. You can add a drop shadow. So that, for instance, if the video is primarily a video against a white background and the captions are white, then sometimes it may be difficult to see. But on the end user side, there are some preferences that you can choose to customize the appearance of those captions. So for that reason, I'm a big fan of using closed captions because they provide the most flexibility. And there are also, maybe as Janet mentioned, times where, for instance, some learners may be distracted by the captions, and if they don't need them, we want to give them the option of being able to turn them off. But again, there could be times where you do have to use the open captions.
And to follow up, the agency requiring open captions for videos posted on social media, I think that one reason people were doing that originally is that some social media didn't have the option of closed captioning. And so and maybe Luis can speak up on this, but I believe on Facebook now you can add closed captioning. So that might have been an early driver to aid accessibility, but now I believe on almost all social media, you can add closed captioning and you can add alt text, and they have some accessibility features, which I think would be probably best practice over open captioning on those videos.
Definitely, Janet. That's always improving. Social media accessibility is work in progress, but definitely getting better. So as we've been mentioning, on the AEM Center website, we have a couple of different areas where you'll find information about captioning. And one of those pages is creating accessible video. And so you'll find videos for each of the 3 workflows that we focused on today. These are step-by-step videos. You can pause them, you can try out things, come back to the video, see if you have any questions. You can always reach out to us. And as Janet mentioned at the beginning, sometimes it may be that the best option is to send out the video and have it professionally captioned, just because it's a long video, or maybe you need a really fast turnaround on it. Of course, there's a cost associated with that, but again, that has to be part of your budget. So this page is there for you as a resource. Leslie went ahead and dropped the link for that in the chat. And then we also want to talk about other tools. So we looked at YouTube, we look at Microsoft Stream. These are 2 services where you could upload your video and start with automatic captions and then edit them. But there are other options out there. As I mentioned, Google Drive supports captions. You just have to upload it in the right format, but then learners will be able to play that video on Google Drive and turn the captions on and off. Flipgrid. So Flipgrid allows you to share quick videos, and then learners can respond to those videos as well. So it really is almost like a discussion board, but using video rather than text. And the automatic captions on Flipgrid can be edited, but only by the teacher. So that is something that's fairly recent, where they've allowed you to edit the captions. So again, this is evolving. So some websites originally did not support editing. They just did the automatic captioning, but now they do. So we always encourage you to go to the help section of video service and see if anything has changed. Apple's Clips supports something called live titles. These are open captions, so they're actually burnt into the video when you share it. But while you're editing the video, you can go in and you can edit the live titles for accuracy. And then, especially with remote learning right now, many of you are using tools like Camtasia or ScreenFlow to create screencast videos for things like demonstrating how to use learning management system, anything that learners need to learn in terms of using their technology at home would be, good sort of option, or a good candidate for using screencasting tools. So Camtasia and ScreenFlow, Camtasia is available for Mac and Windows. At least I hope the Mac version is still available. I primarily use it on Windows. And then ScreenFlow is a Mac-only application. So these are standalone applications that record your screen, allow you to perform editing, and then they both support adding a caption track. So let's see in the chat, what else are you using if you're already somewhat familiar with captioning to do some of your captioning? And I do see a question from Kathleen about Screencast-O-Matic and if it does automatic captioning. I am not sure. So that's one where, again, I would go to their help page and then see what they explain there. And I see some people are using Zoom. So there is the option to assign a captioner. And we have Brooke today providing captions for us. So that's an option as well. Some people are using Skype.
Luis, does Zoom have an option of automatic captioning? I don't believe it does, to my knowledge.
No, as far as I know, what you can do is assign somebody to do the captioning. And John actually says, if you can clarify, John, because typically we hire somebody that we assign as a captioner. So I've never done the any kind of automatic captioning with Zoom. So John, if you could explain. Okay, so John is explaining, yes, you can use Otter AI for live captioning. So that is the service that's using artificial intelligence. And so you can, if you're recording your Zoom meeting, you can bring in Otter AI. By the way, if you're using PowerPoint or Google Slides, they both support live captioning. However, just so you know, it is generated by artificial intelligence. So your mileage will vary. Really depends on the audio quality and the quality of, the discussion, whether it's clear and so on, so that it can recognize it. So if you're presenting with PowerPoint, if you're presenting with Google Slides and you're recording it over something like Zoom or any other video conferencing system, if those live captions, when you show them, they will be part of the recording. So that's an option as well. So I see lots of great sharing here. How about you, Janet? Anything else you've used?
Nothing that hasn't been mentioned, except for I was in a meeting earlier today and someone mentioned WeVideo and they like it better than the options. So I was wondering if anyone has heard of WeVideo. I have not. So it's on my list to look at. And they said that it had automatic captions that could be edited as well.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Camtasia.
We'll add that to the list. I'm familiar with WeVideo. It's editing tool that's really popular in schools that are using Chromebooks. Yeah. Because it's all based on the web. It's cloud-based.
And I have no experience with it, but they were very happy with it.
Great. All right. So thank you for sharing, everybody, in the chat. That's what we love, is when people bring in, and if you correct us in real time, we appreciate that as well. So thank you for bringing in your knowledge of Zoom, because we don't know all the use cases. So if you have additional information, by all means, share that in the chat. All right. So let's see if there are any last minute questions. I have a few slides just to wrap things up. But just want to pause here and see if there are any additional questions. So there is a question coming in about Camtasia. Which format should I use to upload to YouTube? In the past, I've always used SRT for YouTube, but I believe now you can use WebVTT as well. So if your tool exports either one of those two, you should be fine. And the link to the video. So the video is on our website, the tutorial videos. So there will be a link in the handout that takes you to our website, exactly where you can find those video tutorials.
And we will update the handout based on new information as we've learned it too. So that information will be updated based on this presentation.
Yeah, I think what you'll find is that depending on which tools you use, you'll get really familiar with them. But obviously, we can't cover all of them. There's so many of them coming online, and the support for captioning is always improving. So we are constantly trying to learn more. And then so that's why we appreciate the exchange with you in the chat. Always, we learn from you so much. So just a few things to wrap us up. First of all, the AEM Center is looking to create a new national cohort of AEM states. It's a great opportunity. You'll get free technical assistance at no cost from the AEM Center to help your state build a robust provision system for AEM and accessible technologies. The new cohort will be from this year, 2020 through 2024. And due to the unforeseen circumstances that we're living through, the application deadline for that has been extended to July 1st. So we invite you to share this information with people in your state. Just let them know that application is still open and full details are available on our website. You know, if you're not clear on what does that mean, being an AEM Center cohort state, we have information about the roles and responsibilities along with a link to the application. And then we recently did a couple of webinars where we went through the application and discussed in detail what's needed for each section. So we invite you to check that out. The link to the recordings from those sessions are available on our AEM Center events page. And we have some upcoming webinars. So Janet, you're doing one tomorrow. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I would love to see you all at our webinar tomorrow. It's, as I mentioned, for sites, and we're focused on continuity, which we're defining as things that are successful, are surprising, opportunities of things that we just didn't think were going to, surprises, that are working well that we would like to take into the future of education. So there have been cases where students are finding flexibility in remote learning that they didn't have in a classroom and thriving in that. There's coordination that's happening sometimes with AT and ed tech departments that wasn't super strong before COVID. And now those departments are working well together. So it's going to be a really lively discussion on where's the silver lining of this crisis that we're going through and what positive things can we carry into the future with education. So join us tomorrow, and that's at sites.cas.org/events will be the link to that one.
And what time does that start tomorrow, Janet?
3 p.m. Eastern time.
Great.
Thanks for letting me do a little plug for it, Luis.
No, not at all. We are sister projects.
Mm-hmm.
So we collaborate quite a bit. And as well we should, because a lot of this depends on collaboration to be successful, right? The other webinars on June 1st, we have a special guest from Microsoft, Mike Tolson, who does a lot of the learning tools development for Microsoft. And then we have someone from a school district in Maryland, Alice Wright, and she's going to be talking about the context for the use of Microsoft tools. And so that's going to be a great webinar on June 1st. On June 8th, we're going to talk about accessible OER and how to curate them with confidence. We've developed a curation protocol focused on accessibility, of course. And so we will introduce that at the June 8th webinar. And then on June 15th, we've done a webinar on personalizing the reading experience. The recording for that is available on our website already. Well, on June 15th, we're going to look at the other side of that coin, right? Which is the writing experience. How do we personalize that and make it accessible to everyone? So as you can see, a full slate of webinars coming up. We look forward to seeing you join us on any of those. And another mention that this webinar is what we're calling an enhanced webinar. So today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, you can join us for office hours. So if there's a question that you still have that we didn't get to during the webinar, you can join us at 4:30. Janet and I will be there. We'll answer your questions. We can take you step by step through any of the demonstrations that we did this afternoon. And then there'll be another office hour on Thursday, May 21st. So that's this Thursday at 4:30 again. So again, you can ask questions, you can get guided practice. We can go through any of these workflows with us. And Leslie's gonna drop the link for the office hour for today And then we look forward to seeing you and having some good conversation with you. And finally, we invite you to stay connected. You can always email us at aem@cast.org. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at @cast_UDL. And then we have a Facebook page as well. So it's @castUDL without the underscore. So we were able to get that in Facebook without the need to add an additional symbol there. So these are all places where you can get updates from CAST. The AEM Center is part of CAST. And so you can see the work that CAST is doing and the work of the AEM Center as well. And with that, we also would love to get some feedback from you. We're always trying to improve these webinars. So if you could just take a minute or so and complete the survey. The link is bit.ly, and then /AEM123 captions survey. And that is case sensitive. So really appreciate your feedback. I want to thank Janet for being such an awesome co-presenter and bringing so much knowledge to the conversation. I want to thank Leslie for helping us with the logistics and also the chat. And then as always, Brooke for doing such a great job with the captioning. Brooke from ACS Captions, we really appreciate your support. And then I want to thank you all for your excellent questions and comments in the chat. There's a few things that myself, I've been doing captioning for a while, but there's a few things that I'm going to check out after this webinar. So we're always learning, and that's the important thing, that we're always learning and getting better. So thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and a great week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Luis, Brooke, and Leslie. Bye.